All right, today's question is what happens when God's people forget to be thankful? We're in Numbers chapter 11, and this is where things take a hard turn. Israel's finally moving forward, but guess what? Their hearts ain't grateful and they're grumbling. And let me tell you, nothing will kill your joy and your witness and your walk faster than a spirit of complaint. And this chapter shows us how fast a blessed people can become a bitter people and how God responds when we crave the world more than His will. In verses 1 through 3, we see complaining brings fire. It opens like this. He says, soon the people began to complain about their hardship, and the Lord heard everything they said. That's how quick it starts. God had just delivered them from slavery. He parted the Red Sea, fed them supernaturally every day, but all it took was a little discomfort, and they start belly aching. And God ain't playing. He says that His anger is blazed, and fire from the Lord burned the outskirts of the camp. Let me tell you something. God hears your grumbling, and it matters. Complaining ain't just venting, it's accusing God of not being good enough. It says, Lord, what you gave me ain't what I wanted. We do it too, don't we? Why ain't I got a better job? Why can't I have what they got? Why is it taking so long, Lord? Be careful, because grumbling is a sign that you've forgotten grace. And what's wild, they don't cry out to God, they cry to Moses. That's how far that their hearts drifted. In verses 4 through 9, we see that they're craving the old life. Now watch this. It says the foreign rabble stirred things up, and the Israelites started whining. We remember the fish in Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, onions, the garlic. Now wait a second. They're talking about Egypt like it was a buffet line. But that ain't how it was. Egypt was chains and beatings and back-breaking slavery. But that's what sin does to your memory. It glamorizes the past and makes you despise the present. They forgot the whip and remembered the onions. Have you ever been there? God sets you free, but then you start dating that girl again. You just like lost your mind. The road gets tough. You start thinking maybe the old life wasn't so bad. That's dangerous. Longing for Egypt will kill your love for the promised land. And what's worse, they say all we ever see is this manna. Now hold up. That manna was miraculous bread from heaven. It sustained them every single day, but they grew tired of the taste of grace. Listen, if God's daily provision don't satisfy you, nothing else will. You can crave the garlic of Egypt or the bread of heaven, but you can't have both. In verses 10 through 15, even Moses hits his limit. Now Moses hears all this and he breaks down. He says to God, why have you treated me so harshly? Did I give birth to all these people? That's a pastor under pressure. He's overwhelmed. He's exhausted. He's desperate. And even he says, just kill me now if this is how it's going to be. Here's the real talk. Even the strongest leaders hit their breaking point. If you're carrying more than you're meant to carry, it's okay to cry out to God. Moses didn't fake it. He took his burden straight to the Lord, and watch what God does next. Verses 16 through 30, God shares the load. God tells Moses, bring me 70 men, elders of Israel. I'll take some of the spirit that's on you, and I'll put it on them. God ain't rebuking Moses. He's relieving him. He's saying, you ain't supposed to do this by yourself. That's a good word right there. If you're leading in ministry, your home, your workplace, you need people filled with the Spirit standing beside you. And when God pours out His Spirit on those 70 elders, that's prophecy. Even two who weren't in the main group get filled. Joshua gets nervous and wants Moses to shut it down, but Moses says, I wish all the Lord's people were prophets. Now that right there is a little preview of Pentecost, when God would one day pour out His Spirit on all His people, not just the leaders. God's saying loud and clear, leadership is shared. The Spirit is generous, and the mission ain't about one man. It's about God's power working through a faithful people. In verses 31 through 35, God gives what they want, and then judgment falls. So finally, God answers their cry for meat. He sends a wind that brings quail by the millions. It's 3 feet deep and a day's walk in every direction. The people are gathering quail like they just hit the lottery. But while the meat's still in their mouth, God strikes them with a plague. Why? because they didn't just want meat. They rejected God's provision. They craved the world more than his word. They weren't hungry. They were rebellious. The place was called Kibroth Hattaavah, graves of craving. That's what unchecked desires lead to, a grave. So what does Numbers chapter 11 teach us? Gratitude keeps you grounded. Grumbling will burn you up. Don't glamorize your old life in Egypt. It was slavery, not satisfaction. And when you're overwhelmed, God will share the burden. And when you crave things more than God, he may let you have it, and you might regret it. So let your appetite be for his presence, not the pleasures of this world, and keep reading your Bible. And don't be dumb.